Hello guys, Jerry explores history. The 18th Amendment. We know it as the Prohibition Amendment. Let's read it real quickly to refresh everyone's minds. 18th Amendment says, after 1 year from the ratification of this article, the manufacture, sale, or transportation, guys, notice it didn't say drink. The manufacture, sale, or transportation of intoxicating liquors within, the importation thereof into, or the exportation thereof from the United States and all territories subject to the jurisdiction thereof for beverage purposes is hereby prohibited. So guys, from a legal angle, first of all, it doesn't say drink. Second of all, you notice it says for beverage purposes. It doesn't say medical purposes. Anyways, so Section 2 says the Congress and several states shall have the concurrent power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. Section 3 says the article shall be inoperative unless it shall have been ratified as an amendment to the Constitution by the legislatures of the several states. Basically, it's like it needs to be ratified. So it did get ratified, right? The 18th Amendment did get ratified. To ratify an amendment, you need 3/4 of all states. So at this point, there were 48 states. Hawaii and Alaska hadn't officially become states yet. There were 48 states, and you needed 3/4 of 48, 36 states. So 36 states out of 48 would have needed to ratify this. I've always been curious if any state decided to go against the norm and not ratify this. Because as you know, an amendment doesn't just happen to the Constitution. There was going to be a lot of support beforehand for this even to come up. There were a lot of temperance movements happening in America prior to 1917 when this amendment was proposed. So this started from a lot of state pressure, a lot of local pressure. So after looking up the official voting, there were only 2 states out of the 48 states. 2 states that didn't ratify the 18th Amendment. Officially, a state that rejected eventually ratified it once it was passed. So what was the state that never ever ratified the 18th Amendment? This was our good old Rhode Island. Rhode Island is in the Northeast, one of the original 13 colonies. Fun fact, Rhode Island was also the last colony, or the last state, because by that point it wasn't a colony, of the original 13 to ratify the U.S. Constitution. The reason Rhode Island never officially ratified, you can say 2 things. One, it's a coastal state, and its tax revenues, its economy will be hit really hard by Prohibition. Second of all, Rhode Island had a big population of Catholics, and to them it almost felt like this was WASPy, so white Anglo-Saxon Protestant people trying to enforce their morality, their views on a Catholic population. So that was why Rhode Island never ratified the 18th Amendment. Remember I mentioned how the first part of the 18th Amendment says you can't use it as a beverage? So because Prohibition did not ban drinking alcohol, and it also did not ban use of alcohol for non-beverage purposes, a lot of pharmacies started emerging. Doctors could prescribe a little bit of whiskey. It was limited, but they could prescribe a little bit of whiskey for anything. So a lot of people went to the doctors, went to the pharmacies to get their prescription of alcohol to calm their nerves or treat the flu or whatever. And a lot of religions can drink communion wine, wines for the religious ceremonies. So people took advantage of that loophole. And being drunk was not illegal, so anything that could be fermented was advertised. It's not advertised as in, oh yeah, this is going to turn into alcohol, you can drink it, but it said very clearly this could ferment. So a lot of those products started selling pretty well. A lot of manufacturers of those products started kind of shifting their marketing so people would know, if you want to get drunk, do things to this very easily and you'll get drunk. Then a final part of the puzzle was what happened to the alcohol industry. It was the 5th largest industry before Prohibition, because they had the facilities already, right? They got the coolers and everything. Some of them started doing dairy. Some of them started doing other types of goods, basically. U.S. tax revenue was hit very bad. Many states lost a lot of money, millions. And remember, this is before inflation. So ultimately, the 21st Amendment was passed a few years later. It was ratified in 1933. So this great experiment, the 18th Amendment began, was officially repealed in 1933. This was Jerry Explores History. I guess if you want people to go against the current, move to Rhode Island. Right. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.